Joining me now is Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger. He is from Illinois. Thank you so much for being with us, Congressman. We just heard from Martin from next door in Iowa, from farmers there. But I want to play you sound from a farmer in your own district in Illinois, a soybean and corn farmer. He was on CBS this morning with my friend Dean Reynolds. Listen.
Every day that this ticks on, farmers are the ones that are taking it on the jaw.
How long is this going to go on before you say, hey, this is too much? You're ruining us out here.
I think to a point you could say we're already there.
That farmer in your district, Congressman, says he's being ruined by these tariffs. What do you say to him?
Look, it's not great for farmers, and here's why. The Chinese have basically decided to go after Trump's base. I mean, if President Obama was doing this, if he was taking on Chinese unfair trade practices, which he never did, they would be going after the base that voted for him. It's not something I like. I would do some of this differently than the president. For instance, I would have entered the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, and fought from a position of strength. I would not be having the fight with Europe, et cetera. But this should have been done 10 or 20 years ago with China. There's no doubt it should have been done. There's some pain, and it's terrible, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that we alleviate that as much as possible. One of the great things is my new free trade, born-again free trade Democratic friends should pass the USMCA. This is something that we can get done to replace NAFTA. It's good for farmers. That would be a good message right now. But I've heard some of them say they don't want to give Trump a win.
But Evan Haltline, who was the farmer there, what's your message to him? That it's worth it? That it's worth his farm? It's worth his livelihood?
Well, no, you can't put it in the, it's that. I talk to these farmers all the time. I was home on Monday talking to all these farmers, and they're very frustrated, and I'm expressing that frustration with them. But they also understand that this is a fight that now that we're in it, we have to win. If the U.S. backs away at this moment, and frankly, all over the network, we're seeing, all these stories of people that are wanting the president to back away. If you back away from this fight right now, the concessions that will be extracted from us will be painful, and then we're going to be having months and months of talking about why the Chinese are still eating our lunch.
Very quickly, last point on this. You said you were for TPP, so to some extent you're a free trader. Let me just ask you from an economic standpoint, who pays tariffs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's paid by the people that buy the goods.
Which is, in this case?
Yeah, it'd be U.S. consumers, just like as the Chinese put tariffs on our goods, the Chinese will pay that. But the point is, tariff, what that does is it makes it, obviously puts it on a level playing field with U.S. goods, so it advantages U.S. goods, which is why tariffs, we don't want to use them unless we're treated unfairly, and the Chinese obviously know that this trade imbalance much more is devastating to them than us in this process.
All right, Congressman, you're on the Foreign Affairs Committee. We learned overnight that the State Department has ordered the removal of all non-emergency personnel from Iraq. Do you know why?
No, there's probably, intel that they have. I'll put it this way. Iraq is very tenuous right now. We know that there are energized Shia militias that are supported by Iran and Iraq. And so if something were to spark off in the Middle East, if, Iran decides they want to close the Straits of Hormuz, and that turns into a big fight, by the way, because that's international waters, U.S. could be targets in Iraq as well as other places like Syria, Yemen, et cetera. And so it probably makes sense to pull non-essential personnel at this difficult time.
It has the appearance of being connected somehow, we don't know for sure, to this rising tension with Iran. And I want to read you a quote from the New York Times about this. And the United States has said, the Trump administration over the last couple of weeks, there has been intelligence that Iran was planning some kind of attacks on U.S. interests over in that region. We haven't seen that intelligence, so we don't know what it is. But this is what the New York Times said. One American official, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss confidential internal planning, said that new intelligence of an increased Iranian threat was small stuff and did not merit the military planning being driven by Mr. Bolton, John Bolton, National Security Advisor. The official also said the ultimate goal of the year-long economic sanctions campaign of the Trump administration was to draw Iran into an armed conflict with the United States. Do you feel that John Bolton is pushing the president toward war?
No, I think that's ludicrous. So first off, it's another unnamed official. So have the courage to say your name instead of just being an unnamed official. The idea that the administration wants to get into armed conflict with Iran, it may make good for, political back and forth, but it's not true. They're not pining for armed conflict. Look, do they want to take the Iranians down from what they're doing around the world? Absolutely. When I say take down, get rid of their adventurism. What they're doing in Yemen, supporting the Houthi rebels, giving only weapons to the Houthi rebels, putting them in the middle of civilization populations so civilians get killed. Look at what they're doing in Syria. Look at what they're doing in Lebanon. Look at what they're doing around Israel. It would be nice if they didn't do that anymore. But the idea that we are desperate for a military conflict from an unnamed official is ludicrous. But we do want the Iranians to stop ruining the Middle East like they're doing.
Well, let me ask you this. You were active military, or the Air Force National Guard, I believe, right? And thank you very much for your service on that. But there are those who argue that the increased presence, U.S. presence in the region, as well as the clear ratcheting up of the rhetoric, might create the possibility, increase the possibility of some kind of accident. Does that concern you?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like some of that is a little bit of the blame America first crowd. I think us having a strong stand in the Middle East, frankly, makes armed conflict less likely, because what it says is, Iran, if you try to close the straits, if you attack, by the way, a quarter of Americans that were killed in Iraq were killed by Iran, either directly or indirectly through technology. So they have a history of going after
You're talking about the Shia militias, correct?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Shia militias and actually Iranian intelligence and Iranian EFPs, the explosive form penetrators in the IEDs that actually ended up leading to a loss of American life, which was Iranian technology that was exported to these militias. So all this, they obviously have a history of going after and killing Americans. So I think to actually go in with a position of strength, which I know is new in the last decade, to say, if you touch us, there's going to be a high cost, I think it actually makes military force much less likely.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger from Illinois, thanks for being with us this morning.
Anytime. You bet. See ya.